Okay, so what we have pictured here is some video of the respiratory system and how it works. Um, just as with the heart, I'm going to try to tie several of these together because that's really the only way I was able to learn it, is kind of jumping back and forth between the videos, really putting the action of it into work, because reading the books all fine and dandy sometimes, and it helps to learn and study from that, but for me to look at the videos and to see how everything starts functioning together is how I really have been able to um, adapt to this class and utilize the technology that's available to me. And so I'm going to show some of the respiratory system now and uh, link it together so that you can see how I was able to format how everything worked together.
Control of respiration is tied to the principle of homeostasis. Recall that the body maintains homeostasis through homeostatic control mechanisms, which have three basic components: receptors, control centers, and effectors. Let's see how this applies to the respiratory system. The principal factors which control respiration are chemical factors in the blood. Changes in arterial PCO2, PO2, and pH are monitored by sensory receptors called chemoreceptors. The chemoreceptors
basically it's
send
carbon
sensory
dioxide,
input to respiratory centers
oxygen,
in the
and
brainstem,
acidity,
which
or basic
determine the
level.
appropriate response to the changing variables. These centers then send nerve impulses to the effectors, the respiratory muscles, to control the force and frequency of contraction. This changes the ventilation, the rate and depth of breathing. Ventilation changes restore the arterial blood gases and pH to their normal range.
Now, for instance, when you're exercising and you have more cellular respiration going on, obviously because your cells are more active, your carbon dioxide level is going to increase, and you're going to need more oxygen. So that's going to eventually, through all these steps, increase the ventilation. So now we're leading into the neural control of how the brain controls breathing function.
Basic rhythm of breathing is controlled by respiratory centers located in the medulla and pons of the brainstem. Within the medulla, a group of neurons in the ventral respiratory group sets the basic rhythm by automatically initiating inspiration. Click the inspiratory neurons to see how they function.
Alright.
The inspiratory neurons send nerve impulses along the phrenic nerves to the diaphragm and along the intercostal nerves to the external intercostal muscles. Click the inspiratory neurons to see how they initiate inspiration. The nerve impulses to the diaphragm and the external intercostal muscles continue for a period of about 2 seconds.
This is the part I really
This
like.
stimulates the inspiratory muscles to contract, initiating inspiration. A second
As you
group
can
of
see,
neurons in the ventral respiratory
this just
group now fires,
really
inhibiting
helps the learning
inspiratory
process of
neurons
things,
for about 6 seconds.
to actually see it in full effect like that.
The elastic recoil of the lungs and chest wall leads to expiration. The automatic rhythm, generated by these two groups of neurons, alternately inhibiting each other, produces a normal resting breathing rate ranging between 12 and 15 breaths per minute. Click the inspiratory neurons to observe normal breathing.
So here we have talking about what the difference between inspiration and expiration is. The diaphragm and external intercostal muscles contract, so that means when they're contracting, they're going to be expanding the thoracic cavity, and they're going to be creating that pressure differential there that's going to cause your lungs to inflate while your chest gets bigger. Then over here, the expiration, which is exactly the opposite. We'll take a look at it here. Alright, so here we see the nerve impulse going down to the muscles, breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in breathing out. Notice how the chest cavity is expanding and contracting. Alright, this is another page I wanted to look at within the website. It's also showing a little more in depth. It's got a cross-sectional view of the brain here, so you can really see into it and see the parts that are being affected. But like I said, this is just so pertinent to the overall learning. I really think that some people underestimate this website, but I think it's helped me to be able to do as well as I've done. Not that I'm an ace at this class, but it's helped a lot. It's really taking a lot of reading and the typical book work that tends to be a drag with sciences and put it into a more fun aspect for me. And this is how I've been able to really grasp the concepts, because I can see it and I can relate it and I can think about it. So I just want to take a look at this and show the additional respiratory control centers.
The dorsal respiratory group, or DRG, acts as an integrating center for peripheral stretch and chemoreceptor inputs and influences the activity of the neurons in the VRG. Both the DRG and the VRG receive inputs from
I'm going to pause that right there. We're going to look at what the VRG is. The VRG is the ventral respiratory group. It is an area of the medulla oblongata that contains neural networks that act as rhythm generators. Their output drives respiration.
The respiratory centers in the pons, which modify inspiration and allow for smooth transitions between inspiration and expiration.